markets in the green after Jay Powell's press conference. What we heard from the Fed, Blikre is joining us at the touchscreen to break it all down. So Jared, kind of a muted reaction to Jay Powell today. What's standing out to you in the market right now?
Well, stocks are up, and the Fed is patient now, or excuse me, no longer patient. It's going to act as appropriate. So are we. I think this is going to go down in the history books as only the second time now that Fed hasn't managed to tank stocks. Yeah. A lot of the action there, and let me just focus on the S&P 500. This was the initial impulse. That was right at 2 p.m. Yep. And we can see when the Fed pressers started, we can see here that we actually managed to get to session highs. We're less than 1% away from record highs. Wouldn't be surprised to see that hit in the coming days now. The real action was in the bond market. Yeah. Now, the 10-year, that fell something like 8 basis points from high to low. But if you look at the 2-year, that was down 15 basis points. Mm-hmm. So the spread on the 2s, 10s, it has increased from 20 basis points to 28. Now, that bear steepening isn't necessarily good for financials, but one more thing I want to take a look at is the U.S. dollar index. Mm-hmm. U.S. dollar fell, and if we look at the year-to-date here, a lot of people were saying, we have this kind of uptrend here, and a lot of times when you go into these Fed meetings with expectations of a rate cut, you don't necessarily see the dollar at highs like this. Well, the dollar is finally confirming what we're seeing in the equity.
Saw a lot of comments today. People were surprised the dollar wasn't lower. But let's just talk quickly a little bit about the S&P again, because a theory that we've been kind of testing out here, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, is that maybe yesterday's move was kind of the Fed move you may have expected if they came in inside of expectations, basically saying they're going to cut rates. The dot plot says that, half the FOMC thinks there'll be a rate cut. Most of those folks think there'll be 2. So market's basically back at record highs. Overall, I guess it means the market was not disappointed with what they heard from the Fed today.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And if you look at the Eurodollar futures in particular, I'm quoting somebody from Bloomberg on this, It looks like the next move, markets are pricing in a 50 basis point rate cut. So it's going to be kind of rip off the Band-Aid, kind of goose some markets here, not the insurance cut that some people are saying. Now, of course, the Fed Chairman Powell is going to be data dependent and kind of assess the situation report by report. But you look at the S&P 500 here, so close to its record high, and that big move yesterday, I think it's really going to boil down to what happens with the G20 next week on trade. The Fed is now distant memory.
All right, Jared Blikre, thanks for stopping by.